In 1915, the RMS Lusitania was considered one of the fastest and most luxurious ships in the world. Built by the Cunard Line, the ship combined elegance, comfort, and cutting-edge technology. Passengers traveled in luxurious cabins, enjoying fine dining, ballrooms, and reading rooms. Crossing the Atlantic was a symbol of prestige and modernity. Businessmen, families, and aristocrats shared the hope of a safe and peaceful journey. Yet, beneath this sense of security, the ocean hid invisible dangers. The world was at war, and the Atlantic would become the stage for one of the greatest maritime tragedies in history. The Lusitania departed from New York on May 1, 1915, bound for Liverpool, carrying 1,959 people on board, including passengers and crew. Few could imagine that this journey, meant to last only a few days, would end in disaster and grief, altering history forever. The grandeur of the ship, its speed, and the confidence of its passengers contrasted sharply with the vulnerability in the face of modern warfare. The Atlantic, once a symbol of freedom and adventure, was about to become a silent theatre of death, where technology and war would collide brutally. World War I changed life on Earth forever. German submarines, known as U-boats, patrolled the Atlantic, attacking Allied ships to weaken Britain's war effort. Ordinary citizens and civilian passengers were increasingly exposed to danger, often unknowingly. Warnings were published about the risks of travelling on transatlantic ships, yet the confidence in the safety of large passenger vessels remained greater than the fear of conflict. The Lusitania, despite sailing through a war zone, maintained its elegant routine. Music halls, sophisticated dinners, and leisure activities continued on board, contrasting with the tense Atlantic. Life went on seemingly untouched by the horrors of war surrounding it. Yet the danger was real. The U-20, commanded by Captain Walter Schwieger, was patrolling the sea, waiting for Allied ships. Few suspected that a passenger ship's journey could be interrupted by a silent torpedo fired miles away, changing destinies in an instant. Thus, the stage was set. The grandeur of the Lusitania sailing over treacherous waters, while the invisible war approached, ready to turn hope into tragedy. On the morning of May 7, 1915, the Lusitania sailed along its usual route in the North Atlantic, approaching the coast of Ireland. The day was clear, the sea relatively calm, and passengers enjoyed the deck, some gazing at the horizon, others chatting or reading. However, the German submarine U-20, under Captain Walter Schwieger, had identified the ship at a distance. Although it was a passenger vessel, the Lusitania also carried war cargo, which the Germans used to justify the attack. At 2:10 p.m., a torpedo was launched silently, striking the starboard side of the ship. The explosion was devastating. A wave of fire and smoke erupted from the hull, and parts of the deck tilted violently. Passengers were thrown about, many not understanding what had happened, thinking it might be an internal accident or collision. Within minutes, chaos engulfed the ship. People ran through the corridors, mothers clutched their children, and crew members shouted orders, trying to organize evacuation. The speed at which the ship began to sink surprised everyone. In less than 20 minutes, the massive vessel started to disappear beneath the waves. The tragedy intensified with the shock of the unexpected. Most passengers had no emergency training and did not know how to react to the terror unfolding before them. Many were trapped on the slanted deck, while others desperately tried to reach lifeboats. Desperation aboard the Lusitania was absolute. Screams, tears, and the sound of the sea flooding the ship blended with chaos. Adult passengers tried to help children and the elderly, while others ran in search of safety. Over 1,190 people would not survive. Some went down with the ship. Others were lost in the turbulent waters, victims of the cold and strong currents. Among them were 128 Americans, whose deaths shocked the world and influenced future political decisions. As the Lusitania tilted and submerged, many survived thanks to the courage of the crew and luck in reaching lifeboats. But terror did not end with evacuation. Massive waves and floating debris threatened those trying to escape. The scene was one of absolute chaos, yet also silent heroism. Stories of courage and sacrifice emerged from the tragedy, revealing the strength and vulnerability of humans in extreme moments. The ship, a symbol of luxury and progress, became a monument to life's fragility in the face of war and the fury of the sea. Every second mattered. Every decision could mean the difference between life and death. The Lusitania sank, taking dreams, stories and lives with it. The attack on the Lusitania did not go unnoticed. Newspapers around the world reported the tragedy with dramatic headlines, revealing the scale of the disaster and exposing the emotional impact on families and public opinion. International outrage was immediate. Many considered the attack a brutal act against innocent civilians, a violation of wartime norms. In countries like the United States, which had not yet entered the war, the deaths of American citizens sparked protests, political debates, and pressure on the government to respond. The incident highlighted the vulnerability of civilian ships during wartime and the need to protect innocent lives. Although Germany claimed the Lusitania carried military cargo, global public opinion focused on the human toll and the injustice of the attack. Politicians, journalists, and historians debated moral and strategic responsibility, questioning the ethics of targeting civilian vessels. The Lusitania thus became a symbol of modern warfare, where the lines between combatants and civilians blurred. The event also had diplomatic implications. The United States began to intensify support for Britain, eventually entering World War I in 1917. The tragedy of the Lusitania was not only a maritime disaster, but a turning point in history, influencing political decisions and altering the course of the war. More than a century later, the Lusitania remains alive in collective memory. The sinking became a symbol of tragedy, courage, and loss, reminding us of life's fragility in the face of war and the sea. Wreckage of the ship remains submerged off the coast of Ireland, preserving personal belongings, letters, and luggage, frozen in time. Memorials have been erected in several countries, honoring the victims and sharing their stories with future generations. The sleeping sun has become more than a poetic metaphor. It is a reminder of interrupted peace and lost beauty. The Lusitania not only marked wartime history, but influenced cultural imagination, inspiring books, films, documentaries, and reflections on humanity, ethics, and courage. Each lost life, each act of bravery, is etched into history as a lesson, to learn from the past and to never forget those who perished. The Lusitania sails not on the Atlantic waters, but in the consciousness of the world, immortalized by time and memory. Amid chaos and destruction, stories of courage and survival emerged. Passengers recalled helping children and the elderly, sharing supplies, and facing the cold Atlantic while seeking shelter in lifeboats. Some survivors described scenes of absolute panic, people struggling to board lifeboats, others being swept away by the waves. These emotional accounts reveal unexpected solidarity amidst despair, showing that even in tragedy, humanity can shine through acts of bravery. Personal stories turn numbers and statistics into real lives, faces, and memories that must never be forgotten. Every survivor carried physical and emotional scars, and their accounts help reconstruct the memory of that fateful day in May 1915. The Lusitania left a profound impact on maritime, political, and cultural history. Its sinking led to changes in maritime safety regulations, reinforced civilian protection during conflicts, and inspired books, films, and documentaries about courage, tragedy, and memory. Museums and memorials preserve the ship's history, reminding current generations of the importance of learning from the past. The sleeping sun remains a symbol of life's fragility and the need to honor those who were lost. Through time, the Lusitania continues to teach about the risks of war and the resilience of humanity, remaining alive in collective consciousness and 20th century history. More than a century later, the Lusitania is remembered not just as a lost ship, but as a symbol of courage, tragedy, and human memory. Its stories inspire reflection on the past and remind us to value every life. If this story moved you and you want to discover more historical documentaries with incredible detail and engaging narratives, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and follow our upcoming videos. Every subscription helps keep history alive and share knowledge with the world. Thank you for watching, and see you on our next journey through history.